Hello, this is Daryl at 10 Foot Truck, Good Attitude Services. And today I'm in the office and I happen to be just cleaning out my filing cabinet and paperwork and stuff like that, and just looking back at some of the old receipts I had from back in the day when I didn't have the truck, before I was doing furniture delivery and then now junk removal. I was doing exclusively moving labor because I just had a car, and it goes back to I couldn't find stuff that was back to before, because when I started doing moving labor initially, I was still working at UPS, and I was also working at the library, and I happened to be on the computer. That might have been around 2004 2005, I think, somewhere around there. I can't remember exact year, but I happened to be on the internet and I found this was on U-Haul, the U-Haul website. I found that they were that you could advertise your moving labor services, and that they would have that on their website. So when people rented the truck, they could also look for a moving helper. And I had been doing moving before. I drove for Mayflower, 48 states for moving. I also worked for United Van Lines. I had worked in their warehouses. And then I also worked for, I drove trucks for starving students. That was the first job I had for moving. And so and then I also drove a truck for delivery for a furniture store. I drove their delivery truck and delivered furniture for them in California. And then I also started my own furniture delivery service. I offered a contract for one of the sofa companies there. And then I also worked doing donation for a donation truck. For picking up donations and stuff for a nonprofit. So I had plenty of years of driving box trucks, 26-foot trucks, driving big rigs, driving a tractor trailer. But mostly I like driving the box trucks. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, okay, I don't have a truck, but if I could I didn't know that you could do that. You could offer labor, and you could charge, and they were allowing you to charge whatever price on the website. So I started doing that, and I was hiring my friends to do it because they needed, a friend of mine needed work. And so I started experimenting with that, and it was doing pretty well. So then as I'm working for UPS, I finally, when I moved away from where I lived, and I didn't have any work because I had moved away and I quit UPS, I decided to start advertising again, or working on my, what they call eMove, which is on U-Haul. I don't know what they call it now, or if they even have that service anymore. And I started to build that up, and it was working really good. And so I found some receipts from around that time, because that was when around 2007, 2008. And I found these receipts in 2008, and these are moving. I wanted to see how much I was making. And these receipts here, I was contracting with a company and also working outside of doing the U-Haul advertising on the eMove site for moving labor. I was also getting jobs from a broker. And then also a friend of mine had jobs for his company, and then I was advertising on Craigslist and getting my own jobs. So I remember charging $35 an hour per man, and we used to have and this was on the U-Haul site, and then we would have a 3-hour minimum. So labor, I noticed that labor, when it comes to moving labor hourly, at least in this area, hasn't really changed a lot since then. That's a long time ago. But I looked at these receipts here, and there was kind of a variance when I was working for a broker here, or working for a company, and instead of advertising my own jobs, they were paying me as a laborer. And all the way back in 2008, and I was calling my company back then Matrix Moving, just as a laborer, and I was making it looks like $15 an hour just to contract my own labor outside of my own company, outside my own service. So when I was working for someone, which for 2008, that really isn't that bad. And I'm noticing I'm getting some pretty decent tips on here on these jobs. $20 tips. There's another one here I saw. I was like, wow, that's a pretty decent tip. Where's that other one here? So $40 tip. Yeah. So anyway, I noticed that also the prices changed a bit in here during this year, or during this month in 2008. And I was starting to get $45 as a flat rate for, I don't know how many hours that was. And then here was $40 an hour. So or $35 an hour. Yeah, I think it was 35 an hour. So I went from 15. So it was variance. It looks like it varied from $15 an hour up to about $45 an hour, and then there was a flat rate. So I don't know what the rates are for. I do moving labor too now. I'm charging $50 an hour, but I think that's a little bit steep for the area here, because it looks like a lot of these guys are charging. I haven't seen people charging 20 an hour, which makes no sense, because I think moving labor is very hard and it's not easy work. So I think it should be way above minimum wage. In fact, when I was working way back when I started with my first moving job, when I was driving moving trucks for starving students, which I'm not sure if that company's still around or not. They were paying. I looked at some pay stubs I found in my I kept all my pay stubs, and I think I was making close to. I'd have to look back on that one. I wish I would have pulled that out and kept that one, because I could have talked about that. But it was way over minimum wage. That's why I got the job. Like, I was working at the gas station at the time, and then some guy said, "Well, you can make more money just driving a truck for movers." And I didn't know anything about moving, so I went ahead and got the job. And I'm pretty sure it was like twice. Maybe I'm not. I'll have to look that up and I'll get back to you on that. But I'm pretty sure it was like whatever I was making back then, which is really low wages. It was twice that. It was like double that. So I was happy with that. Plus, you're getting a lot of overtime and stuff. So that's when I got really into. I figured, well, moving. This is a really good paying job. It's hard, but at the time I was a lot younger, so I could do that all day. And then I ended up getting down the road, getting a job, like I said, with Mayflower driving. They trained me how to drive the tractor trailer. I got my Class A license and drove a commercial 48-foot trailer. We hauled up to 80,000 pounds at the time. I think that was the limit. We would do like 4 or 5 moves in one trailer, because it's a 48-foot trailer. That's when I really got my chops up, because we were moving businesses, and we were moving big houses, professional type moves. Made a lot of mistakes, but I learned about using certain tools and using dollies and things the correct way, and wrapping things and making it easier. So when I did come back and ended up getting a job at a furniture store, I already knew how to do all that. So and then working full time with a furniture store, not only did we learn how to move in all these tight spaces, and because we were working in the city, so we had to deal with a lot of staircases, because sometimes it wouldn't even fit in these old elevators. So we learned a lot of techniques on that. And then also learning how to assemble furniture, because we were also in the warehouse assembling the stuff that was going to go on the floor. So we did a lot of that. So that gave me a lot of experience. And then I remember a guy back then, he would come to our furniture warehouse dropping off, because back then there was some furniture manufacturers in the area. They would drop off their furniture. He was delivering it to us. And that's when he told me, he's like, "You shouldn't be working, you should be buying a truck, and you should be doing your own business, because you're going to make way more money." So that always stuck in my head. Yeah, okay, so he's right. And I tried it for a bit. I failed at it. I didn't know how to operate that business back then, but I got a taste of how it was to have your own, service, because even back then, that was in the early 90s, when I started contracting with a sofa company. I remember, I wish I had receipts from that far back, but I remember charging, because I was leasing a 26-foot truck, and I paid a commercial lease for as a company, and hired a guy, and I was paying him $10 an hour, which was a lot back then. And but I remember it was like $75 or $77. It was like close to $80 per sofa, like one item, and we could stack at least 10 to 15, sometimes 20 sofas in those. I mean, those are big trucks with had a lift gate and all that. I don't think we were doing 20. I don't remember exactly, because it's so long ago, but I think we were doing probably 10 a day. So I was making like $800 a day. Of course, you had to pay for what happened is I didn't really calculate. Now I'm doing a little bit smarter about calculating all these expenses. Back then I was like, I didn't really think about it. It's just like, oh, that sounds like a lot of money, $800. But then after paying the labor, paying the fuel, paying the lease, paying your taxes, I had to pay for office equipment. I had to have specialized office equipment, so because back then you didn't have these phones, and you didn't have you didn't have this technology, the laptop. I mean, the internet was just barely, not even around. that time. So I had to have a fax machine, and I had to pay a lot of money for that and have all that so that they would, fax the jobs, and I had to have printers and stuff like that. So that cost money. It didn't last very long. I couldn't keep the labor. I couldn't find people that really helped me for very long. Training them, that's another part, because I had been doing it for so long. It's like, it was easy for me, but to find someone that you could train to move couches upstairs and do it without damaging the couch, you had to be, it takes a little bit of time to figure that out, learn it. So, but yeah, I got a taste of that. So that's when I found that the eMove and the moving labor, I thought, this is great. This is a great opportunity. I can do this, and I can charge, at that time I could charge quite a bit, way more than I was making at UPS. And also at the library, I was making I was making 3 times when I was charging for the moving labor. I was making 3 times the amount. So I got hooked on that because I was like, wow, that's when I decided I just wanted to go to be a independent worker and self-employed, because I had control of my schedule, and then also I could charge what I decided was fair, under certain circumstances, like the market value. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting though. I just came across this and looked, and I'm looking at how the prices really haven't. I mean, they've gone a little higher, but in the last 16 years, moving labor, maybe people should start charging a little bit more for the moving labor because of inflation. Because when I look on the ads, I don't see people charging all that much more. Sometimes even less than what I was charging back then. So yeah, it's something to think about, because if I was making $40 an hour, $35 an hour doing moving labor, not with a truck, just with labor, back in 2008, that's 16 years ago. The price of rent back then, I was paying for a condominium $600 a month. That same condominium is probably almost close to $2,000, $3,000, maybe $3,000 a month in that area. I mean, things have gone up in rent. Everything else has gone up. Car insurance, truck insurance, commercial insurance is through the roof. Just everything's gotten so much higher. So I wonder why the labor that I'm seeing on Craigslist and that, maybe because it's in a different area. The area, there's a difference between the Seattle area and the Spokane area. The cost of living is a little bit less here, or a lot less than over there. So, but back then, the cost of living was even cheaper than it is here. So, something to think about. Just I decided to pull that out and kind of look it over and just remember, and that helps me to see how things have progressed, and just good to sometimes look in the past. I keep a lot of my receipts in that. I don't know if I'm going to get rid of these. It's just something to look at, because a lot of times I forget, and now I'm actually looking at the dates and where I signed the receipt and everything. So, but it's something, if you don't have a truck and you're looking to do something, it's hard labor. It's not easy. I would suggest, if someone's going to just start out doing moving labor without a truck, because a truck's a very expensive thing unless you rent it, like I was renting to Penske. I would suggest moving. This is just my suggestion, my opinion, is working for a company that, like a big company or established moving company, and work for them for about a year. Because I did work for. I had several years of experience before I ever, actually more than that, but I think with a year experience with that, or at least some kind of experience working in trucks with people who've been doing it for a long time, I learned so much that way. So when I went out and did my own moving services, it was I knew what to do. Wasn't having to figure it out. I knew how things operated, and it makes it a lot easier. And in the eyes of the customer, you seem professional, and you're going to get callbacks. And so, like I said, today or yesterday, I got a call back from a customer. They needed me to do 2 moving jobs. It would have been a really good situation. Unfortunately, it was from over in the Seattle area where I used to operate, and that's a long ways from here. I can't drive that far to go do a job like that. It's too far. But that customer called me, and they said we had used your services. I think it was in 2016, 2017. So we're talking 7 years ago. They'll keep your number, and that's it. And those repeat customers, if you prove that you're a professional and you do the job fairly and at a fair price, you'll get calls for years. I still get calls from over that area, and I left that area 5 years ago. So I even got a call from a guy who I'd done moving labor for him over 10 years ago, and he had, I wish I'd have brought the flyer. He gave me the old flyer that I had given him. I think it was 11 or 12 years ago, and maybe it was longer than that. It's a long time ago. I had that old flyer, and he gave it to me. I kept it because it was like, wow, that's an old flyer. Yeah, he kept that flyer that whole time because they had moved in, bought a house, and moved, and then of course, people sometimes you won't hear from them for a while if they move and apartment moves. If you're right now, apartments are much more. There are more people renting apartments. It seems like those people move a lot. They can move once a year, or if they don't have a lease, sometimes more than once a year. So those are good. That's a good idea too, to get in. Get in with the apartments and talking with the managers there for move in and move outs if you're doing labor, helping people load their trucks, unload, or whatever. It's a good opportunity. If that's that's hard. It's not easy work, but you can charge. I wouldn't charge. I would look at the market value, but I would charge a fair price. But like I said, me personally, I would charge $50 an hour per man. But I don't know what every you can go as low as 40, I would guess. But I see guys charging 30, 35 an hour still, and we were charging that way back 16 years ago. So I don't know if that's what you want to charge. I mean, it's still more than minimum wage, but I would think you charge a lot more than that. But that's my opinion. You charge what you want to charge. But yeah, like I said, that's another opportunity if you don't have a truck. And then once you do get it, you can rent a truck. And then once you do get a truck, then you can start, or leasing a truck, then you can start doing other services outside of the moving labor. You can do like what I'm doing now, junk removal, which is you get even more money than that because you get flat fees. You charge them by the volume of the truck. You'll get asked to do all kinds of different work. It depends on what you want to do. I've been asked to do landscaping, remodel work. I don't do that, but I had friends of mine that would do it, so you could refer them to that. All kinds of stuff people ask you to do. I've gotten jobs that lasted just off one moving job. I've gotten jobs that lasted years, helping people out on a regular basis. So, and you'll meet people, and you'll be able to network, and over time you'll build your clientele. You'll start getting repeat customers, and you won't have to spend so much time doing out ads and marketing. But it's always good to continue to market no matter what. That's about it. All I have today. Just wanted to kind of talk about that. And I think that's about it. This is Daryl at Good Attitude Services. I hope you're having a great week, and it's coming up on the weekend, and you have a great weekend. Signing out.